It's Tuesday night, which means that it's that time of the week that I look forward to the most. And I'm pretty sure you guys look forward to the most as well, because it's time for another cracking and thrilling episode of Chatar Patar with Anubhav. And I'm delighted, beyond delighted, I should say, to be joined by fitness influencer, trainer, and entrepreneur, Swetha Subbiah. Swetha, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Anubhav. Very excited to be here.
Likewise, Shweta. Firstly, I have to ask you a very important question. Did I do
Mhm.
justice to the description, fitness influencer, trainer, and entrepreneur, or did I miss some big chunk there?
No, I think that was perfect. I mean, maybe even a little bit too kind, but yeah, I think those few words sort of capture where I'm at currently in my career. So thank you for that introduction.
Fantastic, because I was looking at your Instagram profile, I was looking at your Instagram bio, and I saw all these
Mhm.
very sexy sounding technical terms like TRX, posture analysis, animal flow, kettlebell, Nike, this and that. And I'm like, what? Let's keep it simple as opposed to being too technical. Lest I actually make a mistake.
Absolutely. No, that was perfect. Thank you
Firstly,
so much, Anubhav. Mhm.
not a problem. I have to tell you that I think you'll be happy. I want to know what your reaction is. But I smashed a
Mhm.
workout right before getting on this. It was a 40-minute workout, fairly quick but grueling nonetheless. शुरू में I was thinking, आज
Fantastic.
skip कर लेते हैं, आज rest ले लेते हैं. But I was like, you know what, मुंह दिखाने लायक नहीं होगा if I actually skip a workout on the day I'm actually speaking with a fitness influencer. So I had
I
to
know.
do
I would
justice to
not
this
be happy
conversation
if
and
you
prepare for this.
didn't. Fantastic. I just did a workout as well right before. I've sort of covered myself up quickly, ready for the interview. But it feels great, doesn't it? After a workout, always feels good. You never regret post workout.
Absolutely, and typically you end up experiencing a post-workout high anyway, but it's a higher
Exactly.
high when I'm giving company by you.
Thank you so much, Arnav. I'm so kind.
So how's your workout? How have you been working out? Do you have access to a gym?
Yeah.
Are you working out from home? How is your workout routine? How have you adjusted your workout routine ever since the lockdown?
Yeah, so it definitely has been a bit of a difference. We do have an apartment gym in the apartment, and ours is a fairly small apartment. So recently we've reopened the gym because it's a small community of people, and obviously there are lots of restrictions and care is taken once we enter the workout space. And to be quite honest, not too many people are using it, so it's safe for me to train there. But up until a few weeks ago, it was pretty much just working out with body weight type exercises. So it really sort of, it was interesting because as a fitness instructor, sometimes you get quite dependent on the weights and on the machines, and you lose your creativity. And I remember in the first course that I did in the UK, one of the tests was they put us in an empty room and they had a client and they said, okay, now what if you had no equipment, design a workout, right? And you had to pass that in order to sort of get certified. So it took me right back to my first certification that I did, where I said, okay, where they said, no equipment, now give yourself a great workout. And it was, in that respect, it's been great because I've been forced to be more creative as an instructor to figure out ways to train my body without the use and the dependence on equipment and machines. So it's been good.
So you know what, Shweta? Unlike me, you've actually derived something useful from your degree because I didn't derive anything useful from my engineering degree, to be
Hey, my,
honest.
my degree was in economics, Anubhav, to be quite honest. I later in life did a certification in, fitness instruction and did a bunch of certifications later. But that came, after I spent 2 years in the corporate world. So it's been a bit of a sort of roller coaster ride. And then finally here doing fitness, which is my passion.
And would love to delve further into this roller coaster ride, as you
Mm,
called it. So you
yeah,
studied economics, you mentioned. You started working in
correct.
the corporate world, did that for a couple of years, as you
Right,
mentioned. What prompted
right.
that pivot from the corporate world
Okay.
to fitness? What was the genesis of your fitness passion?
Sure. So, like I've said this so many times, my sort of passion for fitness is firmly rooted in my childhood. I spent all my time, any free time I had as a kid, out playing. I didn't have much toys in the house, nor did I want to stay at home. I wanted to be out all the time, either playing around with the boys on the street, cricket or football or whatever it is they were playing. And I'm one of 12 first cousins who would meet up every summer, and all we did through the summer was play sport. So sport is very much key to who I am. The problem is, though, in India, and I pursued sport actually for a while. Even while I was in school, I played, in every team, whether it be, basketball or hockey. In fact, I represented the state of Karnataka under 16 for hockey. But you come to a point in your academic life, which is the 10th grade board exams, where you have to take a call, I guess. And I had to decide whether I continue on pursuing my passion for sport, or choose academics and take that route. And to be honest, at that time, it wasn't really a choice, because there was no future that was clear as far as sport was concerned, especially the sport that I was playing, which was hockey. And being a woman in sport, it didn't seem like I could make a good living out of choosing the sporting route, which is why I sort of decided, okay, fine, let's focus on academics. And that's what I did. I got through the 10th grade. I got through the 12th grade. I went away to Canada to pursue the undergraduate degree in economics. Became quite a nerd while I was there, but sort of kept in touch with sport, as in whenever I could play. I think in Canada, I played quite a bit of racquetball, which is similar to squash. And during that time, I also spent a lot of time in the university gym, which is a place that I never went to while I was here, because I was always playing sport. And if you understand, a sports person's mentality, they want to sort of be reactive and they want it to be exciting. And then suddenly you put them in a workouts gym environment, it can be quite boring. So took a little getting used to a gym space rather than, doing a hardcore workout. But, it was just good nonetheless to do something physical and have that physical exertion. So that was the first time I worked out, actually, when I was in Canada. Then I finished my university degree. I came back to India and I started working with Ernst & Young. I spent 2 years there. And to be quite honest, I didn't hate my job. I just wasn't passionate about it. And I think the person that I am, I'm not going to stick with anything or anyone if I'm not passionate about it, which is towards the end of my 2 year stint with EY, I decided I wanted to do something in sport or fitness. I just wasn't sure what my opportunities were. I was lucky to meet an entrepreneur who was setting up a luxury health club in Bangalore. So I joined his team to sort of help set it up. So more on the management side, to recruit instructors, recruit the training staff, etc., and just set up the operations of the gym. And then once that was done, and it took us 2 years from the time I joined his team to actually opening the doors to members. Once that was done, I then decided, I might want to look at personal training as, my future career option. And the reason that happened was at the end of those 2 years of setting up the gym, I started getting antsy again. I started wanting to do something more physical. And the guy that I was working with said, why don't you give personal training a shot? I'm sorry if I'm rambling, Anubhav. This is quite a story.
No, go for it. You're captive. I'm captivated. Go for it. Yeah.
Right.
Keep going.
So the thing is, like I said, after the end of those 2 years of setting up the club, I was actually unsure as what my next step would be. And the guy that I was working with suggested becoming a personal trainer. And to be honest, that sounded like such a wild idea at the time, because I looked around me and there were 35 odd male instructors. We only had male instructors back then.
And which year was this?
They all looked a certain way. This was, I want to say, in the year 2009, maybe, or before. Yeah, about 2009. And I looked around me and all these instructors just looked a certain way. They were big guys with big muscles. So I just felt like physically I didn't fit the profile. But nonetheless, I took up the offer, in that I just decided to get up on the gym floor. And just, for the next 3 months, all I did was replace weights. I got a bunch of books to read up about training and the science behind training. And I got quite interested in it. And after 3 months of just being on the floor, reading
Swetha,
up
are you still there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I think there's something unstable about the connection. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. So
yeah, I think you're back.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Temporarily there was something unstable with the connection, but go
on. So I was saying that, after 3 months of spending time on the gym floor, just literally replacing weights, watching other trainers train and reading up on training, I decided that this is something that I wanted to sort of invest in and build a career out of, which is when I went to the UK to get my first certification. And then since I've been going back every year, so more than a decade, every year I go back to the UK, get certified in another area of fitness, because I think it's important. The fitness world is always progressing with new research, new training techniques, and it's good that I stay in touch with that and the new sort of developments in the world there.
And tell me something. So before you left for the UK, did you have a vision to be an influencer, fitness influencer? Like I always wonder.
Not at all.
you
Yeah.
you had mentioned that fitness was your
Yeah.
passion, right? So I'm guessing you enjoyed going to the gym, enjoyed the high of a
Yeah.
workout, right? And
Absolutely.
you were probably doing it
Absolutely.
as a hobbyist. When is it for an
Yeah.
influencer, right? When do you guys feel that,
Mm.
oh, you know what, I can perhaps take this to the next level from just doing this as a
Right.
hobbyist? I can perhaps
Yeah.
train people. As soon as you see abs, are you like, okay, you know what, I belong to the 1%, the top 1%. Now I can be an influencer. People can follow me. How does it work?
Not at all, actually, Anubhav. To be honest, when I decided to go to the UK and get trained, this concept of influencer and fitness influencer was really not there. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
about, I would say, 5 or 6 years ago when I got recruited by Nike to be one of their Nike club trainers. Did the world of social media even occur to me, because it was one of the requirements that we had an active social media account, because the goal was for us to represent the brand and
I
put out
see.
workouts, positive messaging, etc. um, and that's when sort of social media came into my life. Otherwise, and to be honest, if it wasn't for Nike, I probably would not have had a social media account. And I must also admit, I think compared to a lot of the fitness influencers, I put out a lot less content, because it's just like, I don't know, I miss that generation. I'm not from the social media generation per se, but I'm trying to force fit myself in there. Hopefully, I'm not doing a terrible job.
No, no. To be completely honest with you, right? Being very candid, being
Yeah,
candid is
yeah,
one of the ground rules of Chatar Patar with Anubhav. So, jo bhi bolunga, sach bolunga.
fantastic.
As part of my extensive due diligence before, chatting with you, I looked at your Instagram account. Had it not been for, you
Yep,
mentioned that, had it not been for Nike, you probably wouldn't have had an active social media account. Had it not been for your active
probably.
social media, I probably would have skipped my workout earlier today.
So it all worked out then. Fantastic.
Sometimes they say whenever you lack a little bit of motivation, you can sometimes think of what your idol would do. So say, what would Virat Kohli do for someone, right? What would
Yep.
a David Goggins do for someone else? Today I was like, what would Swetha Subbiah do? And I was like, she would probably work out. Anubhav, you better work out as well.
And I was working out right before this one. So well done, Anubhav.
Lovely, lovely. So, of course, the fitness industry, the fitness landscape has changed a lot, especially in India. In the recent past, it's changed for the better.
Hmm.
Back in the day,
Yeah.
and even now to some extent, but less, right? There
Mm-hmm.
was this very stupid myth being propagated that, women should not be going to the gym, women should not be lifting, women should not be working out, they should be doing cardio, but they should not be lifting weights, right? But in many ways
Mm-hmm.
now that myth is being debunked, but it hasn't completely
Yeah.
been debunked, right? Would you
Right.
call yourself one of the pioneers of this new shift in the mentality, given the fact that you have in many ways contributed to this new fitness landscape in India, especially for women?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to take the word pioneers and associate with myself. It seems a bit too much of credit, but I definitely was very much a part of that shift, very much present during that shift. Like I said, over a decade ago, when I started off as a fitness instructor, I was one of 35 instructors, male instructors. I was the only female instructor. And on the gym floor, uh, it would be just men lifting weights. The women would all be in the group exercise studio. I'd call them the cardio queens. So it was definitely, and it has definitely shifted so much in the past decade, because now I would say there's an equal number of men and women on the floor. There are equal number of female instructors, which is really, really great to see, because like I said, I was one of 35, and it was a bit of strange situation to find myself in, because who do you relate to, who are your mentors, and I didn't have that initially. So there definitely has been a shift, and I was present during that shift. Was I a pioneer? That would be maybe a bit too much credit to me, but I was present, and I definitely witnessed it firsthand, the change in the landscape of the industry.
Fantastic. And you've honestly since then like gone on to make many inroads in the fitness industry. You of course have your own entrepreneurial venture as well. Sisters in Sweat. You're the co-founder of Sisters in Sweat, and you've
Awesome.
also started and founded Sweat by Swetha, right? So talk to us about
Correct.
both
Yes.
Sisters in Sweat as well as
Okay.
Sweat by
Yeah.
Swetha.
So I think I should talk to you about, in terms of chronological order, Sweat by Shweta first. So basically, what happened and how Sweat by Shweta came around is, I had spent quite a bit of time as a fitness instructor, and as I had explained to you, I'd helped set up this first gym as well. So I had quite a bit of experience with understanding the management side and the setting up side of health club spaces. So after spending quite a few years as a fitness instructor in the original gym that I started working at, I realized that there was quite an upsurge in health clubs, and there were a lot of them popping up. And people who wanted to set them up didn't necessarily have the know-how as to what it takes to set up a gym, both from the operation side as well as from the training side. So I sort of just took that opportunity to market myself as a fitness consultant of sorts, in terms of not only consulting on the training aspects but also the setting up aspects of health clubs. When I went on to set up a few health clubs in and around the city, I then got into corporate wellness, signing up various companies and designing their corporate wellness programs, managing the health club spaces within their facilities. So that was sort of where Sweat by Shweta was born. The company that did all of that work, which I sort of set up, was called Sweat by Shweta. Now, cut to Sisters in Sweat, which is a 2-year-old venture, I would say. November 2017 is when that started. So the story there is an interesting one. I was part of an ad campaign with Nike. I don't know if you remember it. Deepika Padukone was in it. It was called Dada Ding. It came out, I think, about 3-4 years ago. I'm sorry, more than 3-4 years ago, or maybe that's about
Definitely rings
right.
a bell, though.
Yeah. So check it out after this, though. You'll see glimpses of me. You'll have to really keep your eyes peeled, though, because it's quick.
I will.
What Nike did there was, it was bringing together various sportswomen and athletes, female athletes, of course, and just sort of doing a very empowering campaign. So through that campaign, I happened to meet a number of female sports persons and athletes, and sort of we all got connected during that campaign. Who during Tanvi Hans, who is a footballer, she played for the Tottenham Hotspurs in the UK. She's a Delhi girl, but because she had a British passport, she was able to play for the Hotspurs. She played a few years, then came back to India, but she was part of the campaign as well, and she was based out of Delhi. So after the show was done, after the ad was shot, she got in touch with me because she was moving to Bangalore. And once she moved, we sort of became quite close friends. And one night when we were all out, I had taken her out to a friend's party. My friend, who was quite interested in learning a new sport, started chatting with Tanvi and said, would you teach me football? So Tanvi was like, yeah, sure, I don't mind doing a session. Why don't you bring a bunch of your friends and we can do one session on a Sunday or something like that. And that was literally the conversation. And also, point to be noted, there was alcohol involved that night. So nobody really took that seriously, right? We're like, yeah, let's play football on Sunday while we're all, quite high on a Friday. But anyways, cut to the following weekend on a Sunday, I invited some of my friends for the session. My friend who wanted to learn the sport invited some of her friends, and we thought, okay, we'll have 4 or 5 girls come out on this Sunday. And Tanvi and me decided we'll do the session together. I would do the fitness training part of it, and then Tanvi would teach the technical aspects of the game, and we'd end with a fun 15-20 minute game, and that would be it. So I show up to the ground on Sunday, and 17 women show up, and it was incredible. I was honestly in a state of shock because I didn't expect that many women to be interested in playing a sport, no less a contact sport. And these are women who are in their 30s or older, right? So anyways, we had a great time that Sunday, and we all decided that we should do this every Sunday. So we created a little WhatsApp group. Anubhav, sorry, I can't see you. I don't know if you
I'm
getting
sorry,
cut off.
Shweta.
Yeah, okay.
Ever since Cyclone Amphan decimated Calcutta, my Wi-Fi has been extremely volatile. More volatile than the stock
Yeah,
markets
okay.
have been in recent times because of COVID.
Okay, but
Sorry
anyways, I
about
can see you now, so we're good. I
I'll
hope
tell
the
you.
spot.
So I'll tell
Where
you.
did you catch?
So the last thing I remember you saying was cut to the following Sunday.
Okay, cut to the following Sunday. I show up on the ground with Tanvi, all ready to teach, take a session, expecting to see about five, maybe six girls come out. 17 girls came out that Sunday, and I was in an absolute state of shock because most of these women, I'm in my 30s, so all my friends were in their 30s as well, and that's who came out to the session. And I was in shock for two reasons. One is women in their 30s still want to play sport. I thought I was an anomaly. And two, it is a contact sport, which is something that women tend to shy away from. At least I thought so. Clearly not. So we had 17 girls play that day, and it was a really fun session. And we decided let's do this every weekend. And we created we created a WhatsApp group, sorry. And what then happened is that the girls who were part of that original group started inviting their friends. And from 17, we've grown to over 350, 400 women
Oh
now.
wow, wow.
And so a few months ago, Tanvi and me decided, there is a huge opportunity here to do something good, to, reach out to more women to play not only football, but other sport as well. And that's where we, incorporated Sisters in Sweat, which is a partnership between Tanvi Hans and me. And the aim there is to, have multiple training sessions for different sport, and typically or primarily focusing on women who don't have the opportunity to play, in that they're not part of a school or a college team anymore. So, that's who we're catering to primarily.
Fantastic. So Shweta, now that we've established, some sort of a relationship, I have two requests for you, right?
Mm,
I'm sure you
mm.
won't decline these requests. You'll say yes. I hope
Of
Tanvi is
course.
listening as well. Then if she is, then maybe we can get her opinion as well. But a couple of
Yeah,
things, since you mentioned that Sweat by Shweta is a consultancy in many ways, right? Look, it's my dream to one
correct.
day establish my own gym. So I'm pretty sure you'll give me complimentary consulting services. I said,
Oh,
whenever I want to seek your
100%,
counsel,
Anubhav.
lovely.
100%.
So that's
No
that's
question about that.
that's one out of two, hopefully two out of two now. Is there any way you can make an exception for me such that I can also join Sisters in Sweat? Perhaps I'm happy to be a sister. You don't have to call me brother. Happy to be a sister. One honorary male member in Sisters in Sweat.
Absolutely. We roll out the red carpet for you, Anubhav. But just to come back to that point, and we've had some boys ask us, and we have nothing against men. We love men. In fact, the point that we wanted to stress on is that we find, at least I found, and I think this is true to a large extent, men still continue to play sport after school and college, in that at work they'll form, groups, and they'll go out and play in the evenings. But women, like I said, they end up in the gym or doing like a cardio class, and that shouldn't be the case. Why shouldn't we
Mhm.
have the opportunity to do the same? And that's exactly why we started. But if none of the boys are taking you, Anubhav, we'll have you gladly.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Look, there are lots of questions that are coming in from a lot of viewers who
Okay.
are watching us live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, as well as Hello. Before I
Mhm.
actually start taking the questions, I have to ask you one question. So I was taking a look at your website. So this was the Sweat by Shweta website, and the one thing that really stood
Right.
out for me, right? And some people might think it sounds very normal or cliched, but I think you had mentioned this a couple of times, maybe more than a couple of times. So it really stood out. And I have to ask you, probe you on this. You had mentioned that it's very important for you to be aware of your body. That's the phrase you used
Mm-hmm.
on a couple of different
Correct.
times, right? Some people
Mm-hmm.
might overlook the importance of this phrase, but can
Mm.
you
Yeah.
explain to us what it means to be aware of your body and how exactly can
Yep.
one cultivate awareness of his or her body?
Sure. So when I say aware of your bodies, I mean is, one is, in order to start a fitness program or just to lead a healthy lifestyle, I think it really starts from within, right? To understand, your body type. And once you understand your body type, you can set realistic goals. We're all built differently. We have a different genetic makeup, and we all can't look like those models in magazines, and nor should we. There's beauty in different body types. So accepting that and being aware of your body, and where you can take it, and of course, through training and a healthy diet, you can definitely metamorphosize your body in many ways, but there has to be some basic level of awareness. And then the second part is, when you are doing a workout and you choose a workout program, you need to be very conscious and aware of what are you actually enjoying. Like some people hate, for example, hate running, but they keep running. And then they eventually end up dropping off because they just didn't enjoy it. Now, I'm not saying that, you should only be doing things that you enjoy. Like I'm not a big fan of running, but I tend to run every now and then because it's good for me. It's good for my heart and lungs. But primarily, I stick to things that I know I'll continue doing because I enjoy it. And that'll be the bulk of what I do in terms of an exercise or a workout, even if that means playing sport. So to be aware of self, one is, what is my body type and what are realistic goals for me? Then two, trying out different workout forms and types and seeing what I enjoy the most. And maybe spending more time doing those things because they're enjoyable and I'll stick with it, and then that becomes sustainable. So those are primarily the two things I mean by being body aware. And also, when you're doing a workout, some people just push themselves so hard and then they end up with an injury which will last a lifetime. And to me, the number one rule of training is you work out safely, and then effectively, of course, it follows that. But if you're doing something that is going to make you look great for the next few months, but it's going to leave you with an injury that could last a lifetime, that just doesn't make any sense to me. So just be aware of your body at all times, whether it's with goal setting, whether it's understanding what you enjoy doing, how your body responds to different types of workouts, and then making sure that you never put yourself in any sort of danger. I think that's important.
Absolutely. And you spoke about danger. You mind if I show you something? Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I'll be back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you spoke about danger, and I just
Yeah.
recently purchased something on Amazon, which
Okay.
I think has been a bit dangerous to me in the recent past, only because it's been a beast. It's been too hot for me to handle. It's this kettlebell.
Oh, the kettlebell. I love the
Yeah.
kettlebell.
I
Yeah, but
just
absolutely.
purchased this. Yeah.
It is a fantastic piece of equipment, Anubhav, but also, like, as far as safety is concerned, you have to be absolutely sure of what you're doing with that bell. Otherwise, I've seen horrible, horrible kettlebell related injuries. I mean, pretty much, any piece of equipment can give you an injury if you're not using it correctly. But kettlebell, even more so because of the unstable nature of the bell, you need to be very aware. But good on you. And I hope that, you figure out a safe way to use it, unless you already have. But it's a great piece of equipment. I'm glad you invested in it. You won't regret it.
I've been trying to use it safely, but I think I've been all over the place.
Yeah.
I've been lucky so far because I haven't injured myself as yet. But I've also been spending lots of hours these past couple of days just watching YouTube videos just to get the perfect technique. And I think I'm getting
Exactly.
closer and closer.
Absolutely.
So hopefully I'm there sooner rather than later.
Fantastic. I'm glad to hear that, Anubhav.
Lovely. So lots of questions coming in, Swetha, as I
Yeah.
mentioned. So far in this conversation, we've been very chatty. Now it's time for you to be more snappy with these questions.
Okay.
So
Oof, okay.
we can get underway with Astha Pandey, who's asking
Okay.
you, how different / unique is it to be a fitness coach in India? Is it a relatively new profession? Is it fancy?
It's definitely different in India than it is to the West. I mean, things have changed, and we've come a long way. The question is it relatively new? Yes, it's a new profession for sure. Like I would say, I have seen that shift in the last 10 years. When I started, it was definitely not fancy at all. It was manual labor, I would say. Just picking up weights, counting, and that sort of thing. Today, because of social media and how important wellness has become in the minds of people, it has become definitely more of a it can be a fancy profession. But having said that, there is just a very small proportion of instructors that have the platform and have this sort of like mass appeal, or whatever you want to call it. There's vast majority of trainers, are stuck in gyms, and it's not fancy at all. But if you do all the right things and you manage to get good opportunities, you can cut a good break. And yeah, then at that point, it can be fancy, but it's always hard work. It's always hard work.
And Shweta, given the explosion that we've seen in the fitness industry, especially in
Yeah.
India, right? Of course, you're
Mm-hmm.
certified. You've been to very accredited institutions. You have certifications in various different types of fitness training.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure,
Mm-hmm.
given the expansion, one of the downsides must be that there must be quite a few of these quacks entering the system as well. People that
Oh,
don't quite have the
100%.
technical know-how, but they still perhaps pose to be fitness trainers. So how can people
100%.
prevent learning the incorrect technique from some of these quacks, if I may call them that?
Yeah. It's funny now because I feel like everybody's a fitness influencer. But yeah, and has become one of those things, and I'm not sure what the reason is that everybody wants to pose as this fitness instructor and give out free advice. The one thing that you have to be aware of when you are choosing to sort advice from anybody who's posing as a fitness instructor is, are they certified? Do they have the required certifications to give out the information that they are? Even, from my perspective, people ask me questions about nutrition all the time. Now, I want to make a very clear distinction here. Fitness instructors have a basic understanding of nutrition, perhaps more than the layman, because we do have a module in nutrition that we need to sort of pass in order to get the certification, but we are not nutritionists. So if your instructor is giving you advice, I would say, think twice about taking nutrition advice from an instructor. Not to say that, none of them have the technical know-how, or they're not giving you good advice, but that is a separate area of specialization. And, as far as training is concerned, they obviously know what they're talking about. As far as nutrition is concerned, I would be a bit careful as to sort nutrition advice from a fitness instructor. There is a difference. So yeah, if you want to get advice as far as training is concerned, number one, make sure the instructor is certified.
Lovely words of wisdom there. Then we have Akshay Lokhande, who's asking, you mentioned that you got your certification in the UK. Is it difficult to get that certification in India, or does that certification in India have the same value as the certification that you got from the UK?
Okay, so there are a couple of courses that are available in India, which are internationally recognized, and they're international certifications. There is no local India-based certification that is recognized globally. So that's the key difference. The certification that I did in the UK, which is REPS, is obviously recognized anywhere in the world. So that would be the key difference. Just reading a question. Yeah, so it is kind of difficult in that if you want internationally recognized certification, you'd have to go and do one of the online courses from an international body which certifies you. And what you miss out there is the practical aspect of the training. An online certification gives you the theoretical knowledge, and it'll ask you to go back and do some sort of movements and stuff like that, but nothing sort of can compare to actually physically being present and have someone coach you and make sure you get the right type of training in order to go out there so you can coach other people. Having said that, though, I must admit that given the fact that I've done all my certification outside of this country, I do have limited knowledge about what is actually available now in India. But to the best of my knowledge, there isn't a body that is recognized in an Indian-based body that is recognized internationally. I'm pretty sure there isn't one.
But recently, Swetha, I may be wrong here, but I read this piece in the news that talked about there being one body now that's actually internationally recognized, one Indian body that's internationally recognized, and the name of that Indian body is the Swetha Subbiah School of Fitness and Nutrition.
Coming shortly, yes. Coming soon, yes. I mean, that's one of the things I definitely want to do, Anubhav. I'm glad you touched up on that. I've actually just started work with a partner of mine who's also a very certified instructor, and our long-term vision is to set up an academy and get a certification that is internationally recognized. And I mean, I think we're probably 5 years away from doing that, but that's definitely in the works, because we're a country of over 1 billion. Like, why don't we have this? We should have this. Right. I was lucky to be able to travel and to get the certification, but not everybody has that opportunity. And we have I'm sure incredibly talented instructors here that if they just had the opportunity to get the right certification, they could be at a different level altogether, as far as their certification and training is concerned.
Absolutely. And more power to you, more power to your teammate as well on this venture of yours. And I'm pretty sure you will get the international recognition. If you don't, it'll be an absolute travesty. I'm going to protest. I'm going to revolt if it doesn't happen.
Thank you, Anubhav.
Next up, we have Aishwarya Jayaraman, and she's asking us, if you walk 10,000 steps a day, you don't need any other exercise. Is that true or false? Is it that black or white? How do you look at it?
It's actually not black or white and white at all. The exercise requirement for each individual varies. 10,000 steps a day is something that I think everybody has at the top of their heads because it's somehow advertised everywhere and spoken about a lot. And it's not a bad number to have in mind and not a bad number to track, because if you're doing 10,000 steps a day, then it means that you're fairly active through the day. And it's not black and white only because we all our lifestyles are so different. For somebody who's just been sitting the whole day and they just do 10,000 steps and they have a really unhealthy diet, I wouldn't say that's enough. But if someone who's fairly active, who's got, a decent diet, and they do 10,000 steps a day, could be enough. So it really depends on the individual and their lifestyle that would dictate whether these 10,000 steps are enough. Um, I come from the school of thought that in any urban setting, we are not doing enough physical work. And so a focused fitness activity is absolutely important besides these 10,000 steps. That's where I'm coming from. So, but if you don't have the time for doing something right now, I would say definitely try and factor that in your life at some point. But for now, 10,000 steps a day is a decent gauge. And assuming, like I said, that the rest of your lifestyle isn't horribly unhealthy.
Understood. Noted. Next up, we've got Kushal Palicha. And this is a fascinating question. I absolutely love this question. He's saying the new normal is to work out from home and people are finding innovative ways to stay fit. You think post-COVID, fewer people will go to the gym and now they'll prefer home workouts instead? I'll just give you my example. This is anecdotal, but I used to absolutely despise home workouts pre-COVID. So say, for instance, the gym might be closed. It's a Sunday. I'm like, let me just work out from home. I used to absolutely despise it. Even 15 or 20 minutes would seem like an absolute eternity. But over the past month and a half, working out from home has actually been something I've embraced, even without equipment, even before I got this kettlebell. Do you think that trend will change given what COVID has done throughout the world?
First of all, unfortunately, if that trend changes, it's going to put a lot of us out of business, I think. No, but the truth is, I think there has been a shift, and I think it might last in that people, even, I don't know, in different cities, but in Bangalore, the traffic is crazy. So if I have to get a 45-minute workout, that's going to take me at least 2 hours of my day to get to my gym, to then finish my workout and come back. And I think during this COVID crisis time, people have sort of adapted so well to training at home that I think that a lot of people are going to just continue doing that. Having said that, there is a bit of a question mark in my mind as to suggest whether things after things normalize a little bit, that people just go back to old habits and they forget the gym. They forget what happened before. So I think the short answer is yes. I think there's going to be a shift. I think if 50% of people decide to start working out at home post COVID, eventually that number will come down. People will start heading back to the gym slowly, because the truth is, there are things that you can do in the gym that you simply can't do at home, and people will enjoy lifting heavy weights and stuff like that will have to then head back to the gym. But if you are happy with the body weight workout, and of course time is a huge constraint for a lot of people, getting on the road to get to your gym is an issue, you'll probably just continue on working at home, which is not a bad thing at all.
Absolutely. And who knows, when I have more money in the coffers, I may just invest in a home gym. And if I do end up doing that, then I might just call up Swetha by Swetha and seek your setting it up.
Yeah, but there's also like a fun aspect of going. Like for me, I enjoy going to a gym also because when other people are training, there's a motivational aspect to it. So people who enjoy those things about training, lifting heavy, will go back to the gym eventually. But people who are indifferent to those factors will perhaps just stick on and work out at home.
That's a very, very, very interesting point that you brought up, only because recently, this was like pre-COVID, of course, when I was going to the gym, there was, I observed somewhat of a shift in my psychology, because there was a time when I used to absolutely love going to the gym when there used to be no one there. So the gym would be like a temple, and I used to be one of the most ardent devotees, visiting that temple. I used to
Yeah.
absolutely love it, especially
Yeah.
Saturday mornings, early Saturday mornings. But then
Yeah.
what happened was,
Yeah.
I don't know what prompted the shift. I started enjoying going to the gym when there were a few people. Of course, there's a sweet spot. There can't be too many people, only because it becomes too
I
claustrophobic and
understand.
crowded. But when there are few people, right? It's, as you rightly mentioned, it's almost as if looking at
Mm.
some of the other people gives you the added bonus and the impetus and it fuels your workout. And you're like, you know what? I can't really. You have a chip on your shoulder. You know, isko dikhaunga. हाँ, मैं भी करता हूँ.
100%. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. And I think, people who enjoy that aspect of working out in a gym environment will want to go back eventually.
Absolutely, absolutely. Then there's, I know you mentioned that you want a certified nutritionist, but you still probably
Yeah,
have more knowledge about nutrition than the
sure,
average person
sure.
does. So you might be able
Mm,
to answer this.
mm.
Nandini Garg is
Okay.
asking, does keto really work?
Okay. So with regards to any diet, okay, whether it's keto or, there are tons out there, the truth is in the short term, almost every diet works to achieve those short-term results because primarily what it is doing is you're just cutting your calorie intake, right? Or you're denying yourself of a food group, so the number of calories that you're consuming goes down, or you're just shocking your body even if you're not cutting calories. And in the short term that always works. But the thing that you need to know about any diet is that if you are excluding any major food group, that's your macronutrients, whether it's your proteins, your fats, or your carbohydrates, in the long run, that's never going to work. It's not sustainable and it's not good for your body. So if you need to start off on a diet to kickstart your weight loss program or whatever it is, I would say sure. I mean, obviously, seek the advice of a nutritionist before you start any diet to understand whether it's going to work for you. But also understand that it's something that you can only indulge in or practice for a short period of time. Eventually, you are going to have to find a healthy balance, a diet that is sustainable. When I say sustainable, you should be able to eat the same way for practically the rest of your life. If I say you're not going to be able to eat this important food group forever, I promise you're not going to stick with it, or you're going to end up with some serious health issues because you've excluded an important food group. And every food group has a role to play in your bodily function. So that would be my advice. Yeah, so it works in the short run, definitely not in the long run.
Brilliant, brilliant. So the next question is coming from the person who's actually responsible for having connected us. So had it not been for Diva, we probably wouldn't have been
Hey,
having this discussion right
Diva.
now. So Diva's asking, do you think working out from home with a trainer online is the future? I think I was looking at your Instagram, and if I remember correctly, I think you've been doing quite a few of these live workout sessions from your home as well.
Sessions, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what do you make of this new
I
trend? Do you
Yeah,
see this
I
gaining
think
traction?
I definitely, I think there's going to be huge traction there, and we can see that. I mean, people have gotten quite comfortable working out from their homes. The only sort of shortfall of that, and to me, it's a pretty big one, is that I think training is a pretty hands-on job, to be honest. Like when I'm working with a client, especially a new client who's not familiar with weights, I make a lot of physical contact to correct form, which is something that will be missing when you attempt working out at home. And in that, it's also going to end up in a lot of injuries. But it's like I said, people are going to have to decide now whether it's worth the trade off if they don't have the time to make their way to the gym, or perhaps they can have an instructor come home. But yeah, I think there is going to be a shift where training online with a trainer is just something people are going to opt for out of convenience more than anything.
Understood, understood. And we have a question, a couple of
Mm-hmm.
closing questions. We have a question coming in on our Hello
Yeah,
platform
sure.
as well. And this is Ajay Garg,
Mm-hmm.
who's asking us, talk to me a bit about alcohol consumption and how it can impede your fitness goals.
Okay, being from from Coorg, I don't know how much you know about Coorgis, but alcohol is part of our religion, so I should touch upon this. Um, Alcohol is has zero it's a non it's got a lot of calories but no nutritional benefit from it. So how does it impede your workout? You're doing all this work to sort of lean out and look a certain way and get stronger, but then you're adding all these empty calories. So in a way, if your alcohol consumption is not moderate, it's definitely not going to help you get to your goals. Besides that, alcohol dehydrates you. So if you're going to try to work out after binging on alcohol, you're putting yourself in danger. It also sort of cramps up your muscles. So overall, like I said, I'm not militant about anything as far as diet or exercise is concerned. I always have said that you need to find a nice balance, a healthy balance, because I enjoy a glass of wine at least 3 times in the week. Once a month, I might even go on a bender and have a little too much alcohol. Well, burn it off on the dance floor. As far as diet is concerned, I don't really restrict myself. I think I have a healthy relationship with food, so I don't, I don't really enjoy eating junk all the time. But once in a way, of course, I do. So as far as alcohol is concerned, as well, as long as it's moderate, right? There should be no real problem. Now, if you have a strict goal that I want to lose X number of kilos in a certain period of time, then you need to really be careful about your calorie intake. And like I said, alcohol is just empty calories. So you want to exclude that if you want to get to your goal in a specified amount of time.
Understood. That definitely calls for a cheers. Uh, my
Cheers with my tea today.
Great. My last question for you. Again, this is coming in on our
Yeah.
Hello platform, and this is Neha Warrior
Mm-hmm.
asking us this question. She's saying, "Could you explain a day in the life of a fitness influencer? It may seem glamorous
Yeah.
to an outsider, but I'm pretty sure there are lots of unseen
Mm-hmm.
challenges that you experience on a daily basis. Can you touch upon the
Yeah.
glamour or the lack thereof?"
Sure. Yeah, I would say that I'm a bit of an anomaly as far as fitness influencers are concerned. I don't think I live the life of a fitness influencer per se. But I'll just tell you what my day looks like, and perhaps that would give you a glimpse of what the life of a fitness influencer is. The one challenge though is because I have a social media account which I'm aware that people sort of go to seek inspiration, advice, etc. I feel like it's important for me to look the part as well. I want people to come there and get inspired and say, hey, if she can sort of train and train her body to be a certain way and she can do all these movements, I want to be able to do that. So I do put a little bit of pressure on myself to be careful about what I'm eating, to train regularly. But at this point, since I've been doing it for over a decade, it's become part of my lifestyle and it's not as much of a stress factor. But initially, I would say it was. So as a fitness, my primary job is, a fitness instructor and then, an entrepreneur of sorts. So my day begins at say 6:30 in the morning. I head out for training. I train clients all the way up to say 11:30, 12. And then soon after I'm done training, I make sure that I get an hour and a half of a workout myself. Um, then of course followed by lunch, and then I make sure every day without fail that I get at least a 20-minute nap in the afternoon, because I need it, because training is also a physical job. It's not only a physical job, but it's also a physical job, and so I feel like my body just needs to sort of get that break, and then I'm ready for the second half of my day. I feel like I've got a new day ahead of me, and the second half of my day is primarily with my corporate clients, visiting the clients or building programs, that sort of thing. Every now and then, as an influencer, as you can imagine, I have to do maybe photo shoots or get on Q&A sessions, etc. The photo shoots, honestly, is a bit of a stress factor for me because I don't think I'm any good at it, and so I really struggle with shoots. But I enjoy doing Q&As because this is sort of easy for me to do, to share my knowledge, and there's no stress at all. I enjoy it. So that's primarily what my life looks like. And I want to repeat, I don't think I'm the norm. I feel like I'm quite an anomaly in this fitness influencer world. But yeah, that's primarily what my day looks like. It's not too bad, I hope.
Fantastic. And you mentioned it's become a part of your lifestyle because you've been doing this for more than a decade, not just a part of your lifestyle. So I read this, I haven't read the book as yet, but I've read about the concept.
Yeah.
This was James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, who talks about how when something becomes a part of your identity, you feel compelled in a healthy manner to do it. So when people start viewing you, perceiving you as an influencer, right? As you mentioned, you've publicly made it explicit to people that you have this Instagram account and you talk about fitness. It's one of your passions. You're a certified trainer as well.
Yeah.
Then you almost have like this healthy responsibility to the people who actually look up to you for
Absolutely.
inspiration.
Or 100%. I have to, I mean, that you couldn't have put that better. It has definitely become part of my lifestyle. It's not something I feel like, gosh, I have to wake up and I have to do this. It's not like that at all. I mean, what I put out on my social media is absolutely authentic. It's true to who I am. And if it's coming from that place, it's definitely not an effort. If you're trying to be someone else, then I would imagine that's a massive effort.
Absolutely brilliant. So that's a beautiful note on which we can conclude this conversation.
Yeah.
This conversation exemplifies why the name of the show is Chatar Patar with Anubhav. This was lighthearted. This had both information as well as entertainment. So a perfect blend of infotainment. Otherwise, had it been all serious, we would have called this show something like CD Baat or
Again.
something like Face to Face with Anubhav. But there's a reason why it's called
No.
Chatar Patar with Anubhav. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
all your time, for comprehensively
Thank you
shielding
so much.
all of
I
my
thoroughly,
questions.
thoroughly enjoyed that as well.
Lovely. I did as well, and I'm pretty sure all the viewers who watched and who asked questions definitely enjoyed it and took a lot away from this conversation. Hopefully, it's not the only time that we have you on our One Play Sports networks. Hopefully, we can have you again sometime in the
Absolutely.
near future. Stay safe, and hopefully your family does
Yeah.
well as well for the
You
rest of
too.
this lockdown. Thank you so much,
Thank you
Swetha.
so much and stay safe as well. Bye bye.